What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another week of NFL picks. It is week 11. Can you believe it? We are now officially starting to enter the later portion of this season. It's hard to believe that we're 10 weeks through. It feels like they've flown by. It also feels like just so much has happened, but we still got a lot of football left to be played. And man, we got some big games this week. You want to talk about games that could have playoff implications. Some teams you can maybe argue are facing do or die situations this week as far as their playoff hopes go. It's going to be an exciting week. I really honestly, I look at this slate of games, especially, and I'm going to talk about last week in a second when I get to my record. Last week was just kind of a crappy week, it felt like. We had a great Thursday night game for a change, but after that, obviously, my team lost Sunday, and it really, I didn't like much of the late games. The Sunday night game was good, but it just feels like the Texans let go of that game, and even that game last night, it was not a good football game, but I think that's going to change. I think we got a lot of really good games this week. Now, talking about my record last week, it was absolutely, atrocious. I've been doing pretty good up to this point. But look, these weeks happen now and again, but still not pleased with it. 4-10. It's just, I really thought last week was going to be an upset week. So definitely, I was, you can say I was just shooting white on some of them, but still, some of those picks, very disappointing to get wrong. Overall record 88-64. Lock of the week 9-1. And upset of the week 0-10. I still have not gotten an upset of the week yet, which definitely, I would love to at least just get one before the season's over with. Teams on bye weeks this week. We do have some teams on byes. The Carolina Panthers, they have a 2-game winning streak going. Can you believe it? They are on a bye week. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tampa Bay's lost 4 straight games. They've been reeling. They've had a tough schedule to deal with. So you could definitely say the bye comes at a great time for them. The New York Giants are just an absolute mess. Do they change the quarterback? Do they, I think a lot of questions for the Giants this bye. The Arizona Cardinals, the NFC West leading Arizona Cardinals. I don't think too many people imagine they'd be saying that after week 10, but it's true. They've been playing solid football. They are now on a bye as they are going to look to make a late season run towards the playoffs. Starting off here with our slate of games, starting off with Thursday Night Football, this is going to be a good matchup. This might honestly be, this is going to be a really good matchup. This might honestly be, on paper, heading into it, the best Thursday Night Football game we've had in a couple years on paper. Washington at Philadelphia, battle for first place in the NFC East. First of 2 times these teams are going to meet. No doubt going to have big playoff implications. Washington has obviously had that amazing start to the year. They did lose versus Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia, it was a shaky start to the year, but they've won 5 straight games. They're really hitting their stride. And look, it being in Philadelphia is obviously advantage to the Eagles. But Washington, we've seen time and time again. It looks like this is just a game they're meant to lose. It looks like they're going to lose this game, and they find a way to pull it out. Now, I do believe in this game I do believe that Philadelphia is going to pull this one out. It just feels like a close game, but it just feels like a game that Philadelphia is going to pull out. Them being at home, it is a short week. Washington is coming off a tough loss versus Pittsburgh where they really got beaten up. The Eagles just beat up on the Cowboys. So listen, you definitely, I think you got to advantage the Eagles here, even though Washington time and time again has proven a lot of us wrong. I do got to give this one to the Eagles. Next game we have here heading into our Sunday slate, the 2-7 Raiders coming off their bye, heading down to South Florida to take on the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins team, I think after last night, a lot of people would say, they really maybe kind of saved whatever is left to their season. Obviously, with Tua being back, the Dolphins, obviously they're at their best when Tua is playing quarterback. But it's all about keeping him out on the field. But I do believe that, I do think that the Dolphins will win this game. The Raiders just are not a good situation. I see Miami being able to handle this game, getting to 4-6. And look, in the AFC, obviously that's the outside looking in. It's kind of a crowd of several teams you're stuck in. But it's there's still life to your season, I think. Next game we have here, the 2-7 Cleveland Browns. They're coming off their bye week, heading down to New Orleans to take on the Saints, who just snapped a 7-game losing streak. Something I really don't want to talk about. But listen, I feel like that this is really you can pick either side game. You can make the case that the Saints win this game, but I also think you can make the case Cleveland wins. I think it's definitely a tough game to pick for that reason. But the thing I look at is just who I think could be in a better position to take control of the game. I do think you advantage Cleveland that with their running backs. So I got to go ahead. And, I'm going to give the Browns a win here to go and get their third win on the year. Next game, another battle of, really two teams that haven't had the best years. The Indianapolis Colts, 4-6. They are really, in many ways, you can say, fighting for their season, too. I mean, the Colts a few weeks ago really did look like they had something rolling with Joe Flacco, but now it's kind of come back down to earth. And the Jets just, I think you want to talk about a disaster of a season. That's what this has been. It's been a disaster of a season. And look, that's just what it is. I do think it being in New York and the Jets being at home, I'm going to give them the advantage. I do feel like they win this game. Neither of these teams, I really think there's much hope left to the year. I just think it's a matter of, really at this point, both these teams have their own, unique quarterback situations that have not panned out. But I got to give this one to the Jets. Next game here. The 7-2 Minnesota Vikings. And Minnesota, got to give them credit where credit is due. They're finding ways to win games. They head up to Nashville to take on the 2-7 Tennessee Titans. Now, look, the thing with Minnesota, I just do not see where they're honestly impressive. I don't. I mean, I think they're winning games, but they are bound, to, lose a game that they shouldn't. And Tennessee, while I don't, think it's been a good season by any stretch of the imagination, I do think they could be one of these teams you look at and say, if they can, come out on a good day, they could pull off an upset. And honestly, that's what I think happens. I think that I'm going to lock this down as my upset of the week. I don't know how many of these upset of the weeks I should be doing, considering, kind of the up and down luck I've had this season. But I always try to fit in one upset of the week, and I really could see this happening. I feel like Minnesota is due for an upset, and I think Tennessee could be a spot where, Titans are the home team. Minnesota goes in there and falls short, so I got to give this to the Titans. Next game, the Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears, and, obviously the Packers and Jordan Love continue to look to maintain that ownership of the Bears. And it's not been a good last few weeks for Chicago. They're really looking to make some changes. They're 4-2 start. They've lost 3 straight. I really feel like this is another spot, though, that I feel like Chicago could. It feels like at some point they're due for a win versus Green Bay. But I just got to go ahead and I got to give this to the Packers. I do feel like they're the better team. They're more polished. They have more stability. And a lot of times that's what matters. So I do got to go ahead. I do have to give Green Bay the win here in this one. Next game, the 2-8 Jaguars. It's obviously not. It hasn't been a good season at all. Facing the 8-1 Lions, who are without a shadow of a doubt the best team in the NFC. And really, I mean, outside of the 9-0 Chiefs, probably the best team in the NFL. They just cannot lose games. I don't know what it is. They just are not losing. The Lions are allergic to losing. Think about that. Now, this would be one hell of an upset if it happened, but it ain't going to happen. I think that Detroit's honestly going to come into this game, and I think they're going to take care of business. Matter of fact, I didn't even put it down, but I am going to put this down as my lock of the week. I think that there's really no way that the Jaguars are going to be able to win this game. So I'm going to go ahead and give this to the Lions. Next game here, the 4-5 Los Angeles Rams, who, I mean, is a disappointing loss versus the Dolphins. I don't think you can deny that. Take on the New England Patriots. I just feel like with the Rams, it's kind of one of those up and down years, and you're still waiting for them to catch fire. I do feel like they're going to get the win here. They're the better team. Got the better quarterback. Even though New England is definitely showing flashes. I think that's the one thing you got to say. They are definitely showing flashes. Drake May, I think you got to like what you see out of him so far. It's just, they gotta suit him better with more weapons. So I do gotta go ahead, give this to the Rams. They are the better team. So I do think they get back to 500 with a win. Next game here, and you want to talk about really good games in Week 11. This is one of them. The Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers. AFC North matchup. It's Pittsburgh's first division game of the year. This is going to have a lot of consequences for the division, I think, when it comes down to it. Now, I really honestly feel like the thing with Pittsburgh is, and they just faced a very tough Washington team. If they can win this game, it is absolutely huge for putting them in the driver's seat in this division. But these are just the types of games that Baltimore thrives in. These division games, I really feel like, this is a game Baltimore comes out with and picks up a win. And I do. I feel like they're going to ultimately do enough to pick up a win. They're just slightly better than Pittsburgh. I think I would give them the edge, obviously at quarterback. So, I think Lamar Jackson, he makes the plays that need to be made, and the Ravens pick up the win. Heading into the 4 o'clock window, hey, there's my lock of the week. I don't know why it's there. Should be with the Detroit-Jacksonville game. But, this is honestly, to be honest, I'm not saying this is my lock of the week. I do feel pretty confident in this pick. But anyways, the 4-5 Seahawks and the 5-4 49ers. San Francisco, listen, they're finally getting hot. They've got McCaffrey back. Ricky Pearsall, he's finally made his debut. He's a couple weeks in now. Obviously, glad to see he's out there playing football. The Rams really, or not the Rams, the 49ers really look like they could be, on their way to turning this season around. That's been up and down so far, but they finally could be catching a little bit of fire. And as far as Seattle goes, it's just, I feel like there's still a lot of things they have to work on before they get there. I feel like they do need to improve at the quarterback position. So I do got to go ahead. Going to give this to the 49ers, and I don't think this is going to be all that close of a game. It could be, but I just don't think this is that close of a game. Maybe Seattle pulls it off. As I said, my lock of the week is, Detroit over Jacksonville. But I do think the 49ers should take care of this pretty easily. Next game here, and obviously going to talk about it a lot later in the week, but it's our final game before the bye. I feel like the bye is coming at the right time for us. Going into Denver, listen, it's obviously a tough game. Altitude, having to breathe and play in that, climate, it can be very tough. Now, I absolutely believe this is a game that we can win. I do. I just don't think we're going to. And I don't do this a whole lot, but I'm going to pick against my team. I just don't see where we're going. Well, I don't want to say that. I absolutely see a scenario where we can win this game. I just don't know if I feel confident in picking us. I just feel like that this is a game. Something tells me that we're going to lose. I feel like the bye is coming at a good time for us. That loss against New Orleans really does hurt still. And I wouldn't be all that shocked if, simply put, we see a team that's ready for their bye week on Sunday. So I got to give the Broncos an edge. They are a solid team. Having to go into Denver, you cannot disrespect that. So I got to give the Broncos the win. Now, you want to talk about monstrous games. You want to talk about big-time games. This is it. 425, standalone game at the 425 spot. Nationally televised. The Chiefs and the Bills. Listen, this could be game of the year. And Kansas City, an undefeated Kansas City team going into Buffalo. And I'm going to say, I really feel like if Kansas City can get out of this game with a win, I don't know when they're going to lose. I don't, because if you look at the rest of their schedule, there are not too many games you could say, well, they could lose that. I think you would say, well, they'll lose one at some point. But still, it's look at the Chiefs are just finding way. It's like they cannot lose. No matter how hard they try, they cannot lose. However, I think it's finally time they get their first loss. I do think Buffalo is going to come out and play a competitive game. It's going to be a nail-biter. I think it comes down to the very end in a game-winning kick. But I do think Buffalo is going to win this game. I think they hand the Chiefs their first loss of the year. Another, solid chapter is written in the Allen-Mahomes rivalry. And we see Buffalo improve to 9-2 on the year. Chiefs dropping their first game. Next game, Sunday Night Football in SoFi Stadium. This is definitely an interesting game. It is. It feels like, a game for both these teams. The Chargers have been playing really good football. The Bengals, it really feels like they're sitting at 4-6. they kind of got to win this game, to really keep some hope alive, as far as seriously making the playoffs. Now, as far as this goes, I feel like it is going to be a hotly contested game. You could see either team winning, but I got to go with Cincinnati here. I just feel like, there is definitely more of a need for them to win this game. They, almost kind of have to win it to maintain any playoff hope. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this to the Bengals. I think it's gonna be another one of those fun games, but I just feel like it's gonna be a spot that the Bengals, they need a win, and they're gonna get it here. And then ending off the week on Monday night, and I mean it's just the Dallas Cowboys, have had a train wreck of a season. It is an all Texas showdown here with the Houston Texans taking the trip up to Dallas. But look, I think it's pretty obvious. The Texans, they let that game slip away from them Sunday night. And I really don't know how. It feels like the Texans should have won that game, and they just didn't. So I got to go ahead. I got to give this to the Texans here. Dallas is just a lost cause at this point. And I got to give this one to the Texans. Well, with that being said, week 11, fun week game. So I'm excited for, a good bit of these games. I am. I feel like we got a great Thursday night game, a great Sunday afternoon game. Obviously, the Falcons will be playing at the same time. But, we got a great game versus Pittsburgh and Baltimore. We got some good football this weekend. So let's enjoy it. And with that being said, I will see you all in the next one.